Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing week 8 of my 2023 reads. This week I read some Japanese books as well as some romance novels and had a great time. Timestamps and content warnings are in the description box below. First, I read Diary of a Void by Emmy Yagi, translated from Japanese by David Boyd. This is a book that I'd heard about from Becca at Read Becca, who I will link below. And when I heard her describe this, I thought it sounded so interesting, so I knew I wanted to pick it up, and then I was not disappointed. I ended up loving this book. It's very slow and sort of weirdly slice of life, but it is just weird and lovely and has a lot of social commentary, which I really enjoyed. So the story is about a woman who is very frustrated with the sort of low-level unspoken sexism in her job, where she's always expected to be the one who's getting coffee for everybody and then cleaning up the coffee and taking out the trash and handling all of these things, sort of having to mother people in a sense. And one day she just gets fed up with it and sort of makes up a lie and says, oh, I can't handle that, taking out that garbage because I'm pregnant and it makes me feel nauseous. And that starts a lie that then she decides to just go with. She just decides to buy into the idea of being pregnant. And as the book progresses, you see all of the ways that she shapes her life around this idea, and in doing so makes room for herself. It's really fascinating. I loved the way that it plays out. It's a little surreal at times, and that super worked for me. I just loved the social commentary and this idea of what excuse do you need to take care of your own self as a woman, and what excuse does society need to care about your value at all. I thought it was just really well written and really immersive, and I had such a good time reading this. So yeah, if you like that kind of slightly more surreal, slightly different style of feminist writing, I think this is so worth picking up. So I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Miura san no tomodachi by Masuda Miri, which is basically translates to Miura's friend. This is by Miri Masuda, or Masuda Miri. Masuda is an author that I've heard about from Kazen at Always Doing. She really loves Masuda's works, and I had previously picked up another of Masuda's works and really enjoyed it, so I picked up this one as well. Masuda does comics that are very slice of life, very gentle, and really talk about women and their experiences. So this one is about Miura, who is, basically an adult, but she is struggling with the idea of how to have friends as an adult. So she has found that a lot of the friendships that she had when she was younger just haven't really continued into adulthood. She's grown apart from them, or they don't, the things that irritated her about them have become big deals, or these sorts of things. And she doesn't really know how to have those friendships, and she's feeling that loneliness. So it's all about lots of just reflections on the idea of friendship in a very slice of life way. I think what surprised me about this book too is that it is slightly sci-fi, which everything else that I've heard about Masuda's works from Kazen, is that they're always contemporaries. And so this is contemporary, but with some sci-fi elements, and that surprised me. But yeah, this has that very gentle, slow, just slightly contemplative feel that I really, really enjoyed. I think that the themes in this didn't always speak to me quite as much as the previous book that I read by Masuda, but still, I thought this was a great collection. I don't believe this is translated into English. I don't believe any of Masuda's works are, but it still was just such a great read. So I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Then I picked up a couple of romances by Jackie Lau, starting with Grumpy Fake Boyfriend. So this is a contemporary romance, and it is basically about a guy who is, he's got a PhD in science, but hasn't followed that up, and instead has become a sci-fi author. And he's quite popular, but very reclusive, very grumpy. But his kind of closest friend asks him to stand in as a fake boyfriend for his younger sister, who's going to this kind of long weekend on the lake cabin retreat with some friends, but it includes her ex-boyfriend. and she just wants somebody to be her fake boyfriend so that she doesn't feel so exposed, if that makes sense. So he grudgingly says fine. He hates spending time with people, but he goes. And they are very much an opposites attract kind of couple where, you know, he's grumpy and likes to be left alone and is very solitary, and she is a lot more excited and friendly and outgoing, and they definitely rub each other a little bit of the wrong way, but of course there's attraction and they still respect each other, and so they kind of come together. This one, because it was opposites attract, and they start with quite a lot of bickering at the beginning of the weekend. I struggle with bickering. I don't like bickering, and so that really made it hard for me to get into the relationship. I still think this says some interesting stuff about respecting each other, respecting differences in the way that you like to do things, and all of those sorts of things. So Jackie Lau always has really interesting kind of themes about accepting people in her stories and dealing with family expectations. The hero in this, his family doesn't really understand him. They're all outgoing, and so he's got a little bit of trauma from that. And so, yeah, there's a lot of interesting things in this, but that bickering really made it hard for me to get fully engaged in it. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And then the other Jackie Lau romance I read was Mr. Hotshot CEO, which follows the older sister of the heroine from the previous book. And she is a scientist. She works at a research university, and she's kind of very reserved and very quiet, but she takes a lot of pleasure in daily life, especially because she deals with issues of kind of recurring depression where she just can't take any joy in life. So when she's able to feel okay, she just really enjoys every moment and kind of in a quiet, appreciative way. And she ends up getting into a forced proximity with a CEO. And he is somebody who's a total workaholic, doesn't take any joy in life, but his family kind of intervenes and says, hey, we are forcing you to take a 2-week vacation. You may not come to work. But he doesn't know what to do with himself. And he starts to realize, like, oh, I actually have a problem. I don't know how to enjoy the moment. And since they both frequent the same coffee shop and he always sees how much she just enjoys the moment of having coffee, he asks her if she would be willing to kind of spend 2 weeks with him, showing him how to enjoy life. But because he does nothing in half measures, of course, she has to move into his penthouse with him. So this is like taking on some of those tropes of like the, you know, super rich CEO type of boyfriend, but it does it in a really nice way. I think that it was like just really sweet the way that this focused so much on how to have balance in your life and how to give yourself that grace to just enjoy things and not always be pushing. It also deals quite a lot with depression because that's what the heroine is dealing with, and she's kind of facing the onset of that in the book. I think that it got just a little heavy at times because of how much negative self-talk she could have, which is just, I think, part of the symptoms of the depression for her. And obviously there's like, you know, 3rd act breakup, which was just a little bit much for me, but otherwise, I did really enjoy this book, and I liked the characters and I liked the discussions of just mental health and all these sorts of things. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, so that is everything that I read this week. If you guys have read any of these, if you're interested in them, you want to chat with me about them, or if you've read anything interesting that you want to share with me this week, I'd love to hear from you. Just leave me a comment down below.